I came across an art contest a while back and thought, maybe I should join. The prizes were cool and the theme was right up my alley. What could go wrong? Well, as you've seen by the title of this video, I forgot about it until only 2 days were left. Yeah, my toxic trait is thinking I could pump out a finished piece in 2 days. Did I fail? Did I finish? Did I win something? Let's find out. The contest was hosted by the artist and webtoon creator Kalisami on Instagram. I love her art and the way she draws faces and figures, and her coloring is pretty amazing too. The challenge was to draw her character Kalisa interacting with flowers. Bonus points if there was an interesting story or cultural connection to the flowers. Even though it was still September, I could only think about one thing: the Day of the Dead. And what flower is connected to the Day of the Dead? This one. It's called cempasúchil in Spanish. According to Wikipedia, this is a type of marigold flower. The flowers guide the souls of the dead according to Mexican myths, and the hummingbird represents the dead. So, I wanted to do something with these two things along with the character. I started by doing some thumbnails for the composition until I found something I kind of liked. And I also started choosing my main colors. I found reference on Pinterest for the flowers and the hummingbird. I decided to make the hummingbird look like an alebrije, which are these things, because why not? As for Kalisa's pose, I couldn't find a reference on Pinterest that matched the pose I wanted, and I couldn't get it right on my own. I decided to use myself as a reference, so please pretend that this is the photo. And off to sketch I went. In the beginning, I was indecisive about only drawing a couple of flowers or doing all of them. Drawing the character was okay for the most part, but I did get some things wrong. I think I managed to get the essence of the character down mostly. So far so good, right? Next was the color. The next day I would work on that. That will be enough time before the deadline, surely. I wanted to do watercolor, but since I just started using them and don't really know how to handle them, I figured I'd probably end up using markers or colored pencils as well. I also didn't know if I was going to ink it, but I wanted to color it first. I didn't mention this, but this was a brand new sketchbook I'd never used before. I didn't know how it would hold up to watercolor since it wasn't a watercolor sketchbook. I was nervous but excited. I started by adding a wash of orange watercolor to the page. I was beginning to regret my decision, but I just needed to continue. I started adding blue to blue things and using that same color as a base shadow for the character. And since I wasn't sure what else to do, I moved on to the flowers. Then I tried giving her some blush. It's not bad so far. Since I didn't know what else to do with the watercolors, I decided to move on to something else. I grabbed my markers and added details to the flowers and then used colored pencils. I don't draw flowers that often, so I think I did a decent job with these. I added yellow because I thought they looked a little plain, but not because I knew what I was doing with the pencils. So it was time to go back to the main figure, first with colored pencils. That didn't work. How about markers? What happened to her cheek? The one thing I wasn't supposed to ruin was her face. Just trust the process. This is probably just the awkward face, so I move on to the rest of her body with markers, but you can't really see it here. She's looking like a ghost, but not in the fun way, so I needed to add more color. I went back to color pencils. Why does her hair look like that? I tried to fix the face and nope. Back to the less problematic area. I went over the hair with markers because the texture was not it. So far this was something? Oh man, this is not going like I thought. Why is everything going so wrong? Trust the process, just keep moving. The hair was still looking weird though, so I started working on the hummingbird instead. The blue was nice, so I used it as a shadow for parts of her dress. Can I use white to fix the face? Maybe I should use a colorless blender? At this point, I had to stop. I had to go to work anyways. And I gotta be honest, things just weren't working and I was very sad about it. I thought that it would turn out so much better than this. Never mind that I didn't have experience with watercolors. This was supposed to look amazing, damn it. Maybe I could use the time away from it to get a better perspective while I was at work. But the thing is, I work from home. My sketchbook was within reach, so every now and then I just reach over to grab it, open it, and feel my will to live leaving me. Nice. After work, I was determined to finish it, even if it was turning out to be a third. First thing I noticed was that it was lacking some color. Maybe some contrast could make this look good. I went over the area between the flowers with an orange marker. It does look better. Kind of. So I committed to markers. Funny that her face didn't look messed up anymore. I think it was because the paper got flat again, or something. At least there was that. I started adding more blush and working on the folds. But it still looked so bland and shapeless. I reached my limit. I didn't know what else to do with the color anymore, and the paper wasn't helping. This was a failure. But there was one last thing. My very last attempt to make this look decent. My last hope. Inking. So I grabbed my trusty Winsor & Newton brush and ink and got started. I'm not an expert at inking, but I have much more experience with it than with color. I can make a decent to pretty good piece with ink, so if ink didn't save it, nothing could. I love inking with this brush. It gets tricky and unpredictable at times, but I love the line variation you can get with a brush. Microns and other tools are fine, but nothing beats the expressiveness you can get with a brush. And that's what I wanted to get into this piece, since it was just so lifeless. The hair was turning out surprisingly well, so that kept me going. Originally, I was going to do the face with Sakura microns, but I just kept going with the brush. By then, I was high off my own inking hubris. But it turned out well. I didn't mess up the face. The hair got some nice flowing lines and the figure gained some weight. Wait, that sounds weird. But you know what I mean? Like depth? Something like that? Next up was the little guy. I went back to the character to add final touches to the inking, mainly to add texture, indicate shadows, or overlapping of stuff. And the inks were done. I can't believe how much it helped turn things around. We went from this to this. I don't know about you, but I think this looks good. My god, I was ready to cry out of joy. I had already spent all day working on this and I was ready to give up. Man, it was an emotional roller coaster. I decided to add more details. I thought the flowers needed a darker value now because of the inks. I didn't want to ink the flowers because I thought they'd overshadow the figure. Next was the fun part. The highlights. I grabbed my Jelly Roll white pen and started with the eyes and the hair. I loved how that looked, so I moved on to other parts such as... I found out that if I wiped it with my finger, I'd get a softer look, so I did that. And that was it. This is the finished result. It might not be a masterpiece, but I fought all the way to make it look like that. Lesson learned? Learn to use your tools first. No, really. If I knew how to use watercolors and that the paper was not ideal for this, maybe, just maybe I could have done something much better. Or not taken as long. Or not been as frustrated or upset. And don't procrastinate. Now you must be wondering, did I submit it on time? Just barely. I submitted a few minutes before midnight and I was a mess because I thought I didn't make it on time. But the creator didn't specify a time, so I was okay. So did I win? Of course not. There were so many amazing entries and the winners were leagues ahead of what I could do. I showed you the winning pieces, but I wasn't able to find them. Do I regret doing this because I didn't win? Nope. I hadn't been doing finished works, so this was a great incentive to push myself. And I really did push myself. It was a great opportunity to test my skills as well as my mental stability. With this, I was also able to see what areas I needed to work on next. It was really valuable insight that I wouldn't have gotten any other way. So that's it. I entered an art contest 2 days before the deadline and didn't win. End of story. I might enter more contests in the future. Hopefully I can win one and not break myself in the process. If you want to see more mess-ups like this or upcoming videos about writing or comics, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching!